So welcome to this video about English editing. My name's Martin Rittman from the English Editing Department here at MDPI. And today we're going to talk about the perfect setting. Well, what does that mean? Well, this is a series of videos, part of a series of videos focusing on different parts of the writing process. And this one is the largest scale, if you like. And then we're going to zoom down to the scale of one paragraph, one sentence, and one word. So there's a lot of things that you need to do before you start writing, and this blank sheet of paper can be a pretty daunting thing to have in front of you, that you know you need to write something but you're not entirely sure what to write, you don't know how to go about it, and there's often two responses that people have to this, and neither of them are helpful. Sometimes they don't do anything. You just don't write, you put it off, and then you have to write everything at the last minute. You don't have time to edit or correct properly, and the final product is not great. The other response is that people start writing, they start writing straight away, launch into the writing process and have many words which later on they realize are not good quality, and they essentially have to start again. So how can we avoid either of those possibilities? Well, I want to take you through a series of questions that you should ask yourself before you start the writing process. So firstly, let's have a look at the topic. So what's the scope of what you want to write? Can you even write a short abstract, maybe 100, 150 words, summarizing what it is that you're planning? And this can be really helpful to see, does it have enough content in it? Does it have too much? Should you split it up? Are there any logical leaps, some pieces missing that you need to fill in? And you can also share the abstract with colleagues to ask their opinion on it. Another really important question is, what type of document are you going to write? This is important because your style of writing will vary very much depending on, for example, if you want to put a short post on Twitter or something on Facebook, is a different writing style to if you're writing a research article or a review paper. And you might want to write the same piece of work in several different styles for several different audiences. So the audience is the next question. And even if you're writing for an academic audience, there are different types of academic audience. So, for example, it may be specialists from your field who really know the topic already. Or it may be that you're writing for a more general audience, in which case you will need to explain perhaps in more detail some of the basic concepts about your work. So who is doing the writing? Are you doing it on your own? Are there other people helping you? Do those people have time constraints and deadlines? Who should write which part? And also, are you just aiming to publish words? Do you want to add things like data or code or supplementary materials? You need to think about how these fit in and what stage of the writing process you want to prepare those. So we've talked a little bit about the topic. Next, I want to touch on how you're going to write. So a very important question is there a deadline for your writing? If there isn't, and even if there is, can you set milestones heading up to a final deadline? So, for example, you may want to write the introduction within the next couple of weeks. There may be a deadline or a milestone to have all the figures prepared or write the results section. And you can assign different tasks to different people and complete different parts of the paper in parallel. But you should also bear in mind about how you're going to collaborate and edit. You should make sure you're all using the same software. For example, someone might be writing on Google Docs, another person might be writing in Microsoft Word, someone else may prefer LaTeX. Those are not going to be easy to combine. You should talk about these issues in advance, and also how the editing process is going to work, because it can take as much time to go through and edit a piece as it does to write it initially. So plan this in advance. Another really important thing is to think about you personally. Where and when are you going to write? So, for example, for myself, I like writing when I'm on trains, for example, because very often it's quiet. You don't have an internet connection, and you're not being distracted. And I also prefer to write longer pieces in the afternoon because I find I get many more interruptions in my work in the mornings, and by the time I get to the afternoon those have calmed down and I can focus for an extended period of time. So now we're ready to think a little bit more about the content. And let's put a structure together. So before you actually write any words, you should just write your paper in bullet point form. So you can hopefully see on the left here, we have the title, and then we have section headings. So if you're writing a research paper, your sections will probably be defined by the journal you want to submit to. So they're typically introduction, materials, results and conclusions, or results and discussion. And then in each of those sections you can just put a few bullet points about what you want to say and then put them in order, so it makes a logical structure. And then even in those subsections, perhaps you can say for one paragraph or even one sentence, what do I want to say in this paragraph or sentence? Why do this? Because it takes some time to do and it takes some planning. Well, there's a few advantages. Firstly, once you have this structure, you don't have to start writing at the beginning. You can jump in somewhere in the middle, knowing that the earlier and the later parts will happen later. If you've got multiple authors, they can all approve this structure in advance, and then you can assign different parts to different people. Another really useful thing about this kind of structure is that it identifies where you've got more work to do. If you say, oh, we would like a figure about this, but you don't have the data to make that figure, well, you need to go and collect that data before you can finish writing, and that may be one of the first things that you do. Yeah, and some people, for example, in the results section, just list the figures that they want and then build their writing around that. I've put a link at the bottom here for how to write literature reviews as well, and this gives some really good points for those. So, thanks for your attention. I think you'll have noticed that actually we haven't discussed any grammar points, nothing about punctuation, nothing really about the actual writing process. And the reason is that setting the scene is very important. If you know what you're going to write in advance, then when you actually come to write, your head is much clearer. You can focus on the structure and the style of your writing rather than trying to make up the content and the higher level overview of your article at the same time as worrying about which words you're going to use and what the paragraph structure should be. So as I said at the beginning, the next video in this series will be about writing the perfect paragraph. I hope you can join us then. And if you'd like to find out more about how MDPI can support your writing, then see the web address that's in the middle of the page here. Thank you for your attention.